None of that's feeling foreign to everybody, right? I'm going through names. I so far recognize everybody. Okay, wonderful. All right, so today we're doing point of sale training. So we're doing everything that you would be doing like while conversing with a customer up at the cash wrap, or while working through your end of day procedures. So I'm going to ask a few questions about some of your like current practices while we go through this. But we're going to start by going over just navigating the point of sale screen, like what are you actually looking at when you open up a fresh ticket. We're going to do a really basic sales transaction where we just sell something, the person pays and leaves. And then we're going to do a second sales transaction where we touch all the buttons. We're going to remove an item, change the price of an item, everything you can do, remove sales tax, add sales tax, all the little like manual things you could do at the point of sale we'll cover in one transaction. And then we'll go over returns and exchanges, how to do those. And following those transaction types, we'll go over some of the like settings in your point of sale. So we'll go over how to find historical tickets. We're going to go over how to reprint if you need to reprint a receipt, what all of those options look like. And then we'll roll over to end of day stuff. So we'll talk about like drawer behavior, how to open your drawer, close your drawer. And this is all kind of within our system, not like physically with the drawer, but how to like trigger a pop from our system, a drawer pop, how to close your drawer at the end of the night, how to do a deposit at the end of the night, and what kind of basic built-in like end of day payment information you can see from our system, and how to close out your day. So we're going to run through like a fake sales day. All right, before we get started, does anybody have any questions, anything from the previous trainings, or anything about what I just described we are going over today? All right. Again, as always, please pipe up when we're in the midst of the training. If you have a question about how to manually change the price of an item, and that's what we're doing, please go ahead and ask. I will answer the questions right in the context. And then this evening, this recording will also be up there. This is probably going to be one of the more important recordings to make sure your staff has access to. So that will be accessible this afternoon. We'll say early evening. This afternoon might be a little aggressive, but early evening. All right, so again, we've landed on our dashboard. I am signed into our Boston location, so I am seeing the numbers to Boston since my user is tied to the Boston location. I'm seeing what my LY numbers were for the day, the kind of goals that I would like to hit according to last year. Now, again, if you had your sales plans also entered into the system, you'd be able to see LY as well as plan, so you could see last year versus a goal. Considering how bonkers 2020 was, I think LY and plan might be very different than what they would typically be during a normal year. So it'll be fun to see everybody's plans versus LY. And we're going to hit point of sale. You'll see point of sale is one of the few pieces of the system that doesn't have a drop down because it takes you to the actual ticket screen. So I'm going to click point of sale. This is going to be the screen that your registers at the front of house really live on. This is going to be the like bread and butter part of the system that you use for like 80% of your day. All of the other things we've learned so far are back-end functions. This is really where your staff are going to be living. So just to navigate around the ticket, it's pretty basic, but some of the things we've talked about are going to take play in the ticket today. So I have here ticket number. It just says new. The minute I create any kind of action on this ticket, it becomes a live ticket, and a unique receipt number is going to generate there. So whether I add a sales rep, a customer, or just start scanning items into this ticket, the minute I touch any other button, a number is going to populate there. So you'll see that in just a second. I'm going to teach you the sales ticket from the top down, even though naturally when you're talking to a customer, you might end up scanning their items first and then asking for customer information. I know it's not like every time requirement to ask for customer information, and we've turned off the need for it to be required. I'm going to add a customer to every ticket just because it's a personal best practice, and I'll show you guys around the customer profile today when we're going over it, and all the cool stuff that you can actually collect on your customers. So if you have like really loyal clients that you kind of have like a little black book for effectively, then you can get that information into your client profiles. Fantastic for your staff members that are really good at upselling based on the information they see on people. So just a really fun tool to get used to. So here I am going to add a sales rep, then add my customer. Underneath those two buttons, you'll see sale versus the scan bar versus find. You do not need to click into the scan bar in order to scan your items onto the ticket. You just start scanning and it works. The find button is if something's not scanning properly or the barcode is destroyed or missing, you can go press find and actually look through the catalog for the item that you would like to add to the ticket. I'll show you how to issue a gift card. I'll show you how to affect tax when we actually have some items on the ticket here. And we're going to do a really basic transaction. And just so everybody knows, if you needed to get back to the dashboard, this says Heartland Retail because it's one of our demo accounts, but it will say US Polo Association. You would just click on that logo and it takes you right back to the dashboard. And we're going to click right on point of sale again and bring us right back. So I'm going to go ahead and add a sales rep. This is really important because adding a sales rep to your ticket allows you to report on people's selling behaviors. So the cashier doesn't necessarily have to be the same person as the sales rep. It often is, but if you have an event and you have somebody stationed at a register and you have people, floating around selling, you would be the cashier at the register and that other person would be the sales rep. So it helps you see, okay, who rang the ticket out versus who actually did the sale. You can get very granular with that, but that is the difference. And when you historically look at a ticket digitally, so if you pull up a ticket, you could see the user, which would be the cashier, versus the sales rep, who is the person who would get credit for the sale. Incredibly important if a company has a commission-based payroll, but still a really great feature to be able to report on. Maybe Amy's just killer at selling outerwear, and Danielle absolutely sucks at selling footwear. Michelle's killing it at accessories. You could really start seeing some patterns in your staff, which is really fun. So I'm gonna add sales reps here, and we'll say this is Damien Sale, and then we're gonna add our customer. So there are two ways you can add a customer. So we're going to add from the list, or you can create a new customer. You do not need to add a customer to every ticket. I will teach it as a best practice just because it is so nice to be able to get marketing information for people. But also you have the ability to email customers their receipt from our system. So if you have their information, then you can very quickly email them a receipt because you've already set up a profile for them, which would just be last name, first name, and email. Now, what's nice about searching for customers, because eventually you'll have this wildly long list of client data, you can search by first and last name. You can search by phone number. So if their phone number is in here, even though it's not actually on this list visibly, it's still searching every single thing in that item record. Just like all of the other search functions that we've gone over so far, it's the same behavior. So if I'm working with a customer and they happen to be a really good customer that I work with frequently, and I just don't remember their name, but maybe I remember something really strange about them, like their email address was catlover88 or something like that, then you can put in cat lover and it would start filtering out. So right now I have anything that's filtering to CAT. So it's searching name, email, address. So in this case, I'm going to look for Susan. So maybe I've got multiple Susans. I'd put in the last name to see if it was that person. So maybe it is this Susan. I'm adding her to my customer button up here. Now, what's nice is if you do have a mobile device like an iPad to roam around the store in, you can actually use this to upsell. So if I have Susan added here, I can look at customer data from the back end of the system or the point of sale. It doesn't matter, and I'll show you both. Once you add a customer to this box, you see this little miniature bar graph icon. You can click that and it gives you a snapshot of Susan's history. So I've got a little dashboard. It'll tell you the last 12 months of her shopping behaviors. So she has, purchased $150 worth. That's her average transaction value. Her net spend is about 600. She's got a 0% return rate, which is fantastic. So you can take a quick look if maybe somebody's buying multiple colors in these exact same thing. You see a high return rate. They're probably a customer that buys stuff, takes it home, tries it on, then returns the colors they don't want. So you can start seeing some of those behaviors here. And then in our settings training that we did with the district managers, we took a look at some of the pieces of information that you can add to a customer profile. And that would be these 3 lists here and these 3 pie charts. So in our training account, we have groups. I think you guys are calling them departments and categories. In the training account, we have them called groups. So we've got, groups here, maybe what sizes are they purchasing? So, this person's all over the board. So maybe they're buying for their family. And then you can see the styles that they purchase most frequently. Location, she shops at 2 of my locations. You can see the group spend. Here's list view, here's pie chart view, and you can see category here. So this person is top and sweater heavy. They really like anything above the waistline. So you get a little bit of a better feel for how they spend. You can review the info here. We have our basic pieces of information. We have first and last name, which is required. It generates a customer number. You've got the email address that Susan prefers here, and then we have some custom fields, some really fun custom fields that we tend to suggest if you're hooking up like a CRM to your account, is maybe birthday month, favorite brand. Again, if you're social media heavy, we have Instagram handle. Even though everybody's kind of social media heavy right now, I actually don't see a lot of people use a custom field like that. But again, any information you want to start collecting on your customers, you can start building that into here. And this is not one of those things that needs to be like pristine before you go live. This is a feature that you just kind of grow into and you end up building out if it's useful. Under history, you can chronologically see all of their sales history. And then under orders, if you eventually have ecom attached to our system or we have visibility into ecom orders, then ecom lands here. So history is brick and mortar versus orders being online. Just so you know what everything means. And again, a really great tool for understanding your customer. So maybe I put in like a note field here. Susan hates the color orange. So if you're ever working with Susan, just totally bypass the color orange if you're going to show her something. All right, so I've got my ticket number that generated because I touched these buttons up here. So I've got my ticket number, my sales rep, and my customer. And at this point, you would just scan the items in and the person would pay for it and you'd print a receipt. Because I'm not sitting here with a scanner, I'm going to do all of this manually. And you'll see here as I'm selecting items, it says 2 rows are selected. So if I did need to select a few things at once, I don't have to add them one at a time. I can skip around as long as I'm checking the box, it will be saved. But again, unless your scanner goes on the fritz and stops working, or you have a slew of barcodes that are damaged, you're not going to really be using the find button too often, but it's nice to know that it's there. And it also gives you a really nice view of what you have in stock. So maybe they come up with the white Elizabeth blouse and they're raving about it. And you're like, well, I know I have some black ones. Let me see how many I have in her size. So you can go ahead, pull it up for a quick look and know that, okay, well, I have plenty in the store right now. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can upsell her that black one. So I'm going to add selected lines. These are my items. So it shows item number and it shows the item's description, and then it shows the price. So the price is going to be the current price set in the item record. The quantity, so if multiples were purchased of the same exact SKU, then the quantity would all be condensed down. And then the total. So the total is going to be your extended price. So in this case, if this is 85 and then 2 were purchased, then it would say 170 under total because you were seeing the extended price of the item. And then once they're ready to pay, you would press tender. For your particular tax jurisdiction, under item total, your tax would automatically apply and your taxes are being built out in your system. So it's not something, I don't have a tax bracket built out for you guys in this training account, but tax automatically applies according to your tax rules. And then we would press tender. And then you would more often than not press credit card. And what it would look like is this. So the amount would show up pre-populated, and then it would say add payment. I don't have a credit card machine attached to my laptop, or else you would see it here. It's saying, hey, Danielle, you need to configure your credit cards. But the screen looks identical to this. Everything populates. Once you press add payment, a screen pops up saying that your credit card machine is waiting on you, and you just have the customer stick the chip in. Once it's authorized, that screen goes away, and it looks like this. Add payment. It'll say the payment was successful. It'll say whether it's a Visa, an Amex, a MasterCard. I'm using a custom payment type to bypass the fact that I don't have a credit card machine with me, but it would look like this with the Visa and the last 4 digits of the card. We don't see any other information about the item in order to stay secure. So you would have that there, and then you'll see your tender button turned into a complete button. If the customer needed to, let's say they paid with like cash or check, if they wanted to like void a payment, they're like, I really wanted to keep some cash on me, or I want to change my tender type. You can do that. So I'm going to void this tender here, and you'll see my complete button turn back into a tender button, and then I can just change the tender type. So as long as you haven't pressed complete yet, you have some flexibility if the customer's like, oh, wait a minute, I've changed my mind. And then you would put in whatever it is. So I'm actually going to cash this. I'm going to tender this as cash so we can start building up some cash in the cash drawer for our end of day training. So the difference you will see, check, it automatically populates with the full amount, and you guys don't accept personal checks, so this is actually not going to be here, but again, this is a training count, so I'm going to show you what we've got here. With check, gift card, you've got payment type, a custom payment type that I'm using to kind of replicate credit card right now. They automatically populate with the full amount of the ticket. Cash does not automatically populate because how often are people actually giving you exact change? So that stays empty so that you can put in like, okay, this person is actually giving me, $3.70. You can put the cents to .00, but if it's a rounded number, you don't have to. It will assume that it's 0 cents if you haven't put in the actual cents. So you'll see that it auto-populated for you. And now I'm going to press complete. So once I press complete, you get this little pop-up that says ticket complete, yay! You get a little exclamation point there. And then if you did use cash and there is change due, you get a blue bar under complete that tells you exactly what you need to pull out of the drawer. I know it's a little hard to see when we're screen sharing, but if you take a look at the bottom of my screen, it says change given, you'll actually see that -7 there. So $7 needs to be pulled out of the cash drawer because this person paid in cash. But it will pop up in this nice little module so that it's really clear on your screen. From this screen, your drawer pops to give them their change, and then you can opt to either print the receipt, email the receipt, or both. If they don't want any receipt of any sort, then you can just jump directly to a new ticket. I think that one's a little bit rarer. And if it needs to be a gift receipt, you check gift receipt and then you pick your option so that you get a regular receipt and a gift receipt with it. So this will trigger that additional gift receipt. If you go to email a receipt, because
Danielle, can I ask a question?
Please.
So for gift receipt, since we just did that, is there a way? Does that have to be all items on that gift receipt? Can you select different items? Like if somebody bought the 3 items and only wanted a gift receipt for 1 item?
So you have 2 options. In settings, you actually have a toggle, and we default to showing no items. So all that comes out is a receipt that's like enjoy your gift, and there's a barcode on there with a receipt number so that no matter what is on that receipt, if an item comes back to your store with that receipt, you'll be able to select exactly which item it is. So it doesn't have to be item specific. It's just going to be tied to that receipt. But the customer doesn't like see their particular item itemized on it. It just says, here's your receipt, enjoy your gift. Does that make sense?
Question. Once you pull it up into the system, like if they're coming back, will it show the items then as well, or no?
It will, okay. Absolutely. You have full visibility. It's honestly for like the flexibility of whoever is gifting. So if you like print multiple gift receipts for them and they like buy a bunch of stuff, they don't have to match anything anything to the receipt. They just make sure a gift receipt is in the box to people. And then when you get that gift receipt, if something is getting returned, once you scan that item into the receipt that pulls up, it's going to take away the correct item. So you have full transparency. The customer and the giftee do not.
That's nice.
So it's just flexible, and you kind of just like can't get it wrong. You can't accidentally select the wrong thing for somebody and then it's confusing when it comes back. It's just a little simpler. All right. Any other question? Go ahead.
Sorry. The gift receipt, since we're talking about that too, when it's pulled up, does it show how they've paid?
So the customer who's returning it will have zero idea, but when you pull up a historical receipt, you're going to be able to see like the timestamp of when somebody added an item to the ticket. So again, you will see everything. You'll see a Visa, you will see absolutely everything, but they won't.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And we're going to take a look at what this ticket actually looks like after it's been completed, and all the information you'll be able to see when you like pull it back up retroactively. Just to finish receipts, if you go to email a receipt to somebody, I know not all the managers did our settings training, but the district managers did. When we took a look at the email settings, and we said, make sure you put something in there that's like friendly, that shows up in their inbox. That is like the preemptive piece of information that they get when you get to this module. So email a receipt. This is going to be pre-populated if the customer tied to your ticket has information in your system. So it's nice to be like, oh, Susan, is this your current email address? And if she goes, oh no, that's my husband's email address, don't put that there. You can actually change this out and it's going to update her profile, which is wonderful. If you have an email receipt module that comes up and it's blank, you put in their email, their first and last name, and it's going to create a profile for that person. If that person has a profile but no email address, whatever you put here is going to update that profile for that person. So you will be kind of easily collecting some nice marketing information that can be used down the road. So you'd email a receipt, and within a few minutes, she will have this in her inbox hosted by example.org, and she'll have a nice little email version of this receipt. All right, so I'm actually going to just click out of this so we can stay on this page. I'm going to kind of show you what a historical ticket looks like. So you can press skip receipt printing or press the X. They do the same thing. If you press print and email, the receipt's going to pop out of your receipt printer, but it will also show that email module, so you'll be triggered to do both things. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this. So we're sitting right now inside the old receipt. I'm going to navigate back to this in just a second. So I'm going to go to find ticket. If you ever needed to, actually let's change the visual here. I'm going to go to a new ticket. Because what tends to happen is if somebody's like, oh, no, I don't need a receipt. And then maybe they're halfway out the door and they're like, I need a receipt. Or if they're like, you know what, I actually do want you to email it because there's no way this paper copy is going to be, safe or kept or whatever. And you've already moved on to a blank screen, which is what we all do after a sale. You can go into the sidebar menu. We kind of, if you ever contact our support team, we kind of lovingly call it the hamburger menu. It's got the 3 horizontal lines. So you open that up, and these are your kind of last options at the point of sale. So we've got our find ticket, we have new ticket. These are our ticket options, really straightforward. You can look at old tickets or you can pull up a new one. So a new one takes you to the pretty blank screen that I'm on right now, but find ticket is to pull up any historical ticket that you have in our system. Completed means it is just that. The customer paid, they walked away with a receipt, it happened. It is history. So if I pull up Susan, you can scan the barcode on their receipt to pull up a receipt. You can search manually by receipt number. There'll be a number at the bottom of their receipt, or you can search by name. Again, the search options function the same way across all of the board in our system. But I have here today's ticket. When you guys are using a system that does not have a ton of fake data in there, your most recent ticket is going to show all the way at the top. Again, I have some post-dated items in here just so that, developers playing with this have data to work with. But you can pull up that receipt and say, don't worry, let me just reprint one for you. And you've got a print button right here. That will trigger an actual physical receipt. You can quickly turn it into a return if need be, and we'll do that after the next transaction. Or you go into the ticket and it gives you all your other options. So if they're halfway out the door and they're like, oh, I forgot that was actually a gift, which we all know during Q4, we're always going back and reprinting gift receipts. You just open up the ticket, press gift receipt, and a gift receipt will pop out. And if you need 3 gift receipts, you press that 3 times. 3 gift receipts will pop out. Email receipt, print receipt, and then return button here. So you can go into any historical ticket and redo whatever needs to be done. So this is what a historical ticket is going to look like. You have exactly the items that were purchased, who did it, the exact moment it was completed, who the sales rep was, and then you'll have a list of payment details. So if they paid with like cash and 2 different credit cards, or cash, gift, and a credit card, and they got real creative, you'll see all of them here, the exact amounts that were on each. If you click payment details, it gives you a ton of like JSON backend information that maybe you need, maybe you don't need. It's kind of a lot of information, but it's nice to at least see the timestamps. So you could be like, oh yes, it was authorized at blah, 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 blah. All right, perfect. Sorry, my face was in front of the X. I had to move it out of the way.
Danielle, regarding that information for that you just pulled up here for the payment type, we will not be able to see credit card number, correct? Like that should still be masked.
Yeah, so here's one of the interesting caveats in our system, considering we are a payments company. But we are completely, like our point of sale is completely and utterly PCI compliant because we do not see anything. We stay fully out of scope, which means, and this is like the one thing that might be different from your system, we can't do like post voids without the card being present. So we don't hold any like tokenization to the payment, so you can just like auto return it. You have to have the card number. Now you can manually in your little credit card machine type in the card number to return information back to it, but there is no like auto return button because we cannot see enough information to send payment to a card without it being present.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so and this information here is like not sensitive PCI compliancy. It's all time and tender type. So if you needed to like do some like weird auditing work on exactly when something got authorized, if maybe something strange happened on the back end of processing, this is where you could get some interesting information. That is it. It has nothing to do with anything that's sensitive to the customer.
Great, thank you.
You bet. And a very, very good question. All right, perfect. So this was a simple but long transaction. This type of transaction would take you like 30 seconds to ring up tops, outside of having a lovely conversation with the customer. But obviously we went through it a little bit like molasses, but hopefully it made sense. We're going to do one more transaction before we roll over to returns. So I'm going to go back to that sidebar menu and just click on new ticket. So if you're doing a normal transaction, you print the receipt for them, the person walks out, our system's going to automatically take you to a brand new ticket. But if you're going through and like looking at historical tickets, or you went to reprint something, or you're just navigating through other parts of the point of sale, then you use this button to take you back to a fresh ticket. All right, before we do this transaction, I am curious if, do you guys have any rules around people paying with multiple tenders? Do you have like a cap of how creative people can get when they pay? What are your kind of like internal policies there?
No, there's not a cap on that.
Okay, and your current system doesn't have like an automated cap? I see a lot of point of sales having a cap at like 3 or 4 payment types.
Not that I personally have ever ran across. I'm not sure if the managers have either, but I don't believe that there is.
Okay, perfect. So just so that everybody knows, in case you have come from a system that does lock in how many types of form of payment people can actually use. We do not have a cap. Obviously, people who get very creative, that ends up kind of being a loss prevention issue. Oftentimes people are trying to tie one over on you if they're trying to confuse you with payment types. But we don't have a cap purely because we see so many people shopping with corporate issued Visa or Amex gift cards, and sometimes people accumulate them, and they go about a wild shopping spree and they end up using 6 of them or something that they've collected over the years working. So we haven't put a cap on that for that reason, but obviously if you have an internal one, you can follow the same rules. All right, and we're going to do a split ticket. So I'll show you how to add multiple forms of tender to this ticket. So again, we're here on a nice, beautiful blank screen. Somebody brings up a bunch of wonderful items to the cash wrap. We're going to start filling in our requirements here. So this is going to be Hughes sale, and we're going to say that this is Cyril as the customer. And we're just going to start scanning the items in. So I'm going to grab a bunch of items here. And I'm not being super creative. You're all totally sick of the windbreaker, but here we are. So they've all populated. You will see this last item here, the promotions that we built out yesterday. This is what a promotion that gets auto-generated is going to look like. You have here the Renee Windbreaker in black extra small, and I've got a promotion here that's 2 for $150. So because I have added more than 2 of these windbreakers, I'm getting it at a discount. So the second of the windbreaker is going to be discounted. And it was the first one I selected, which is why that one got discounted, since these are all the same price. And you'll see that the price for all of them are $139, and for this one it crossed the $139 out. It brought it to $75, and that cross out and all of that logic will show up in the customer's receipt, so they know they got a discount on it. And you'll see the item subtotal here. So this is the subtotal of just the items before tax. You'll see the discounts that were taken, and then you'll see the item total, meaning there are 6 units on this receipt, and then tax would be another line here. The total amount due is going to be what is at the bottom on the dark charcoal banner next to the tender button. But before we tender this out, we're going to touch all the buttons. So there are a few ways to do everything in the system. In my opinion, the best way to train your staff to navigate is via this little drop down just to the left of the item number. So anything that you can do at the line level, you can do here in this drop down. So I'm going to click this drop down, and it says remove, adjust price, switch to return, which table that, we're going to go over that in a few minutes, and then edit sales rep. So if I wanted to remove the item because they're like, oh, I'm getting all of these other ones, I actually don't need the extra large in black, then you can go ahead and remove it. That is also how we don't have a legitimate price check button. People just price check at the point of sale, and then you just remove the item from the ticket if they end up not purchasing it. And then we have adjust price. So maybe this Elizabeth blouse in white, I'm offering the customer a little bit of an approved discount, not something that's automated. Maybe there's a little bit of damage on it, or I just want to get it out of my store. Whatever is internally approved as far as manually adding discounts, this is how you do it. So you go to the line level, you say adjust price. You can do a % off the current price. That is going to be the majority of what you do. And then we have specify a new unit price. That one is a little bit less intuitive as far as the lingo. If this was going to be $5 off, then you would put $80 here. So this is a way to correct pricing as well as giving a dollar amount off. But most of the time we're doing percentages off, so I'm going to do 10% off. And then my reason, these are some of the reason codes that we went over in settings. I'm doing it because maybe it's damage. I'm giving them a 10% damage discount because there's a smudge on the blouse or something. So I've got that here, and then I'm going to press save. It will apply it to the item, and then it's going to kind of trigger the same kind of aesthetic looking discount up here. And I've got my adjustment says $8.50 were removed because the item was damaged. This part does not show up on the customer's receipt. That reason, you don't really want something that says damaged on somebody's receipt, but it's good for you because if you ever bring this receipt back up, you know exactly what happened to that item and why. The reason we have reason codes, that drop down where you have to select why you're discounting something, is for reporting purposes. So you can take a look at all of the price adjustments with the reasons. So you can take a look at markdown reasons and just have better visibility over what's happening at your register. And you'll see that our automated promotion, that 2 for $150, effectively broke because I removed the other item that had been filtered in that particular promotion. So this no longer applies for that promotion because of that XL that I removed. All right, so lastly here, we've got remove, adjust price, again, switch to return, hold on that, and then we're going to do edit sales rep. So the very top of this receipt, we have that this was Hugh's sale. If down the road it becomes necessary to get granular by item, you can assign each item to a particular sales rep. So this is important if maybe you're doing a contest, how much outerwear can you sell for the month? Maybe this is one person sale, but somebody else kind of, dipped in and upsold the person a jacket because they wanted to win that internal contest. Then you can go ahead and do that. So I could remove Hugh from this one item and then add John. You're the one who swooped in there and sold this Elizabeth blouse. So it doesn't look like anything changed, but now in reporting, Hugh is getting credit for the windbreakers, but now John is getting credit for that blouse. So it's really nice to be able to report on if getting granular is necessary. Again, you should know what the system does, and if it's something you adopt later on, awesome. If you needed to mass remove items from the ticket, you have your check all button up here. Once you check this, you can adjust prices or remove items. This is also useful if you're doing 10% off like the entire ticket for some reason. Maybe it's like a really loyal customer and you have a loyalty VIP program for your clients. Instead of having to take 10% off of every single item, you would just select all, do adjust price, do 10% off, and it's going to apply to every item. So you can do things in mass very quickly. You can also just remove all of these items here. You do not need to necessarily press the check all. You can do it to just a few items as well. So if you're doing it to just accessories, then you can just click the accessories and change the prices and remove items as needed. So that's what the check boxes are for. We've almost touched all the buttons. So I'm going to show you how to sell a gift card, and I'm going to show you how to work with tax. So let's start with the tax button first. If we have tax on this ticket and we needed to remove it for any reason, the person comes in with a tax exemption card. Not super common if you have stores near military bases. Sometimes that is just a little bit more common in your area, but across the country, not super popular. But if you needed to affect tax at the point of sale manually, then you press your tax button. If you need to remove all the tax from a ticket, you have your remove all tax button. If you need to remove and add an additional different type of tax, then you could do that here. The only time I ever see this done, it's so niche, but it's there if you need it. Some states will have like teacher cards where if they're purchasing like clothes for school or supplies for school, they're not tax exempt, but they'll be at a shorter tax bracket. They'll just be a different tax bracket than everybody else, in which case you can remove tax and then say, all right, well, teachers in my state get 3% instead of 7% tax. That's a nice little break. So then you can remove tax there. Again, this button is not used frequently, but when you have to affect tax, it's good to know that it's there. And again, that kind of rolls with whatever your internal policies are for affecting tax, but it exists. And lastly, we have our gift card. John, do you have a question? Yeah.
I do. Since we're on tax,
Yep.
it's kind of a combination between tax and a return.
Okay.
But if we have to change tax from one percentage to a different percentage during a return, like if somebody buys something in New York at 9.5%, and shops in New Jersey for 3.5%. How do we make that adjustment there if they do that return item?
So if something's crossing a border and is getting returned in your system, and this is one of the things, and we can actually have a conversation, you, Michelle, and I offline about this. What's going to happen is that return under a source sale is actually going to go back to that New York store. So they should be getting the tax amount back that they paid, unless your like bookkeepers say otherwise. If it's whatever the rule is, you have to change it on a return to reflect where the person is actually standing, then you would use this tax button, and then all you would need to do is actually put in a negative amount, and it would return the tax to them. So you would put in they're getting -13 back instead of -16 back. So you can put in negatives, and it would honor that and add it to the ticket as a tax line. Does that make sense,
Okay.
or did I just confuse everybody?
Well, so let's say this happens all the time in Orlando. So one of our counties is at 6.5 and one's at 7%, and they're within 10 miles.
Mhm.
So we're literally happy. It's in Orlando, sorry. So if we want to go from 6.5 to 7 or 7 to 6.5, how would we do that?
So you would remove the tax from the ticket and then put in the percentage.
So hit that on the right-hand side and then put in the new tax amount.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you see
Gotcha.
it added a tax line here. Our system, and again, I am by no means a tax specialist, so I say go to whoever in your company can validate all of this for you. Our system automatically refunds the tax according to the source location. So if there are areas where that's not supposed to be the case, then you can manipulate tax however you need with that tax button. But the way we have things automated typically work. We have a lot of people with stores across the country who aren't changing tax for returns. So I'd be curious if you guys are just in some regions that are really specific about it.
Well, I think it more so it happens on an exchange, right?
Right.
Like
right.
they buy it at 7%, and they're exchanging it in your store for the same exact item. Instead of giving them money back, you would need to change the 7% to 6.5%, so
I
that
see.
it would even out. So that's more so than what you're. Yeah, maybe that's where the setup is. It's the exchange and not necessarily the return.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about this? I am going to set up 2 different tax rules and actually trigger what that looks like, and I'll take some screenshots for you, and I'll create a little doc. I'll say this is what our system natively does, and if you need it to do this, this is what you do, because that makes perfect sense to me. So would you like a little write-up on an exchange across 2 different tax brackets?
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
Okay. Give me 1 second here to write that note, because that workflow does make sense, and I don't have that set up to actually show right now, so I can take it offline and do that. Good question, Tony. It's with an exchange. Okay. Awesome. I can get that on your Basecamp board tomorrow. All right. So we have touched, we haven't touched all the buttons. We still have gift card. Are there any other questions about tax before I move on to gift cards? Okay, excellent. So I'm going to show you our native gift card integration. This is going to be a little different than what you guys currently do, because gift cards, when you use our integration, are actually, they live in the system. You don't actually use your credit card machine to swipe them anymore. They live with us, not with the payment processor. If you end up with a different gift card solution before going live, I will create a training video on exactly what to expect given your solution. But this is the solution that at this point, I believe you guys are going to be going with. So I'm going to show you this so you know how gift cards work in our system. So we have a gift card button. This button is for checking gift card balances, and it's for issuing a gift card. So I'm going to select gift card, and I'm going to type in something real creative. So at this point, what you do is, if you use our gift card integration, you would have to type in the number on the back of the card, because you guys currently have mag stripes. So anything that's out in the wild right now, you would type in the number. But eventually, if you use this integration, you would get barcoded gift cards. So all you would have to do is actually scan the gift card in, instead of using like your credit card machine to swipe it. So we have the gift card number that gets entered in here. If there was a balance on the card, you'd have a little bar up here that said balance of, $10.12. So you could tell the customer, oh, this is what you have on this card. And then here we have the dollar amount. So, but this is a brand new card. It doesn't show me that it has a balance. I'm actually issuing a card. This person is purchasing a card for somebody. So I'm going to put how much we want to add to it. I'm going to add funds. It gets added there. Your gift cards will never affect tax, since you're just kind of exchanging tenders. It's not an actual item that you're selling. So that is kind of automatically built in. And we're going to press tender. Now, if we are going to do multiple tender types, then let's say we're going to do maybe 400 in cash. You'll see if you don't put in something that either equals the total amount or goes over the total amount, then this screen stays up and the balance do adjust. So now it says you owe $370.45. So I'm going to do the rest of that. I'm going to do a check just to show you, so that we have one in the drawer to talk about later. But most likely, if it's cash and gift card or cash and credit card, then we're going to press add payment. And now I have 2 payments. And again, you can do as many as you need to get that balance in that little box down to 0. That is it. So I'm going to complete this ticket. And then I'll jump to a new ticket, since we talked about all of the printing. All right, so we are going to roll to exchanges and returns. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So I'm on a blank ticket. If somebody comes up and they're looking to do either an exchange or a return, then I'm going to open up this sidebar menu and I'm going to go to find tickets. So I'm going to go look for the receipt that they're bringing in. You always want to do a return off of an original form of payment and off of original ticket. Our dev team is working with yours to actually be able to get some of your sales ticket history in the system, so that you have historical tickets from KWI all framed up with us, so that you can return off of an actual ticket. I'm going to show you how to do a manual return if there's anything that didn't make its way over. So I've got my find ticket here. You would again search by that ticket number or by the customer's name. So I have Susan here, and I'm going to do a return off of that first transaction that we did. So I would just click this return button. Remember, you could also click into the ticket. The same button exists at the bottom of the page, but this is one less click, so you might as well use the little shortcut. And what it's doing is it's repopulating the ticket. It's bringing it back to life, but now it is a return. You'll see that instead of it saying sale here, it says return, and the scan bar has turned this kind of pinky salmon color. We're all about, I think, colored visual cues. I'm sure you're catching on. So anything that you scan, so let's say they bring back the large Reneg windbreaker, the middle item, you would just at this point scan it. This item would turn into a -1 and it would be returnable. So I'm going to use the manual button switch to return, again, just because I'm not sitting here with a barcode scanner. But you would just beep, scan it, and then it would do this. It would show that the item needs to get returned for $139. It turns into a -1. The whole item turns pinky red, so it's very visually obvious which items are getting returned. And then you would just tender it out. And you will see, instead of saying add payment, there's a negative here and it says add refund. So you would take a look at what the original payment type was. And we don't validate against payment types. So if somebody used, Visa ending in 321, it'd be your responsibility to actually see if you guys care that it goes back to the exact card. If you don't care if it goes back to the exact card and just needs to go back to the type of payment, so whether it's credit or cash, then you would select credit or cash. So in this case, maybe this is a cash return. I'll press add refund. The drawer is going to pop, and I'm going to be able to give them their money back. I complete this, and it follows through like a totally normal ticket. And you would jump to a new ticket. So a return is nearly identical as a transaction. The only difference is that you're pulling up a historical ticket to do a return against, so that in that person's history, you have like a perfect paper trail of what happened with those items, and it's all tied to the same person. And again, if you're not using add customer, you just need the receipt number to be able to pull up. All right, so I'm going to show you using an exchange how to do a manual return. What that means is how to create a return from a standard point of sale ticket instead of going in and pressing find ticket. So if you, for whatever reason, can't find the ticket and you have to do a return not off of an original ticket, then you can do that from here. And what you do is you're effectively changing the status of the scan bar. So you're actually using this drop down to go from sale to return, and you're scanning the items that need to be returned. So in this case, if an Elizabeth blouse is getting returned, an extra small, the person maybe needs to size up to a small, then you would return that item, and then you would change this back to a sale and find the one that they want to purchase. Again, you would be using a scanner, so it'd be much, much quicker than using the find button. I think you guys get the idea. So you would return the item, and then they'd be purchasing this particular item, and you would press complete, because this is an apples to apples, kind of zeroed out, just a swap of sizes. But whether it's an exchange or it's a return, it's the same thing. So if you were on a return ticket actually using a historical ticket, you would still, when you go to add the unit that they actually do want to purchase today, you would change that return to a sale, add it right to that ticket, and then tender it out as needed. And this is how you would create a manual return directly from a kind of blank normal point of sale ticket, is by toggling between sale and return. And again, all this does, anything that when it's on sale, anything that is scanned or found will show up as a positive quantity. And when we turn it to a return, anything that is scanned or found is coming up as a negative quantity. So if it's pink, it'll be negative. If it's white, it'll be positive. And then here we'd press complete. It never turns into a tender button because there is no exchange of money. And then we would jump to a new ticket. Are there any questions? I know our return module tends to be a little bit different from most point of sales, but does it, I think, process-wise make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything other than all the drawer stuff and end of day stuff that we're going to go over? I'm going to show you how to put tickets on hold, and I'm going to show you how to void tickets now. Some of the little things that you can do. But as far as a transaction and a return and an exchange, are there any questions or anything you guys currently do frequently that you're not seeing here? And also note your return policy will show up on the printed receipts. All right. Wonderful. Obviously, if anything does come up, please ask. So I'm going to do a real quick ticket here just so that we can put one on hold and then we can void it. So let's say Winifred she's got this item on here. Maybe she, left to go, and there's like no more quarters and meters anymore, but maybe she needed to go put a quarter in a meter. And this needed to be put on hold, and you're pretty sure she's coming back for the item. If you press the ticket button right up here, you get a few options. You've got buttons. Then you can place this ticket on hold. If you place the ticket on hold, it'll turn into a blank ticket so you can help the next person in line, and then this goes into a hold bucket. When we put items on hold, it does not commit the inventory quantity. So it is not actually removing any of your inventory from your available or on-hand quantities. It's just saving the work you've done on the ticket so far because you're pretty sure Winifred is coming back. So I'm going to go to that sidebar menu again, and I'm going to go to Find Ticket. So in Find Ticket, we've only looked so far at completed tickets where we can reprint, we can turn it into a return, but you will be able to look at on hold and voided tickets. So note that this will default to all locations so that you do have visibility and like you are able to return items off of other locations tickets for the exact reason that Tony and John brought up, that people will kind of cross stores. But if you wanted to just look at your store, you can just look at your store. You can just look at a very specific register if your store has multiple register points. But I have my on hold tickets here, so I can take a look at on hold, and here I have just a blank one that we navigated away from, and then Winifred's. So you can get tickets on hold two ways. A ticket can be put on hold by actually clicking ticket number and then hold, but you can also put a ticket on hold if you've got one started and it's been there for about 20-30 seconds and then you navigate away from it. So if you navigate away from a ticket, it will auto put on hold. So the thing about that behavior, it's great if you need to re-access one of those items, but your hold bucket ends up filling up kind of quickly just by people being at the register, maybe checking a promotion out or looking at some customer information. So my recommendation is every month or every quarter to just go through the hold bucket and just void out the ones that were obsolete. It doesn't do anything to your system to have items on hold. But if you are neurotic about keeping things like clean, then I suggest every once in a while just going through and cleaning it up. So I'm going to go into Winifred's. And if she comes back and she does end up purchasing this item, I can add more things to it. I can tender it out and it's inactive. I just go back and pull it back up and I didn't lose any of the clicks that I did. But if she never comes back, then I just go and I void it. And you have a void reason here. Customer changed their mind. You can have as many reasons there as you'd like. They ran away, they got rung out at another register because your computer froze, something. Those are all common reasons. And then this gets voided. I'm going to open up that sidebar menu again. I'm going to go to Find Ticket. And you will see here that under completed on hold, you can see voided ones. So you still have full visibility over everything that gets voided. You're just moving it into a bucket that you don't have to look at if you do not want to. So none of these things actually get deleted in our system. And what's nice, I'm going to show you this in the back end. So I'm going to go to sales and tickets, and this is like a back of house view of tickets. So instead of actually being in the point of sale to pull it up, you can pull up any ticket in the back of house view as well. So if you're ever, you're like, wow, that was an incredible sale, and you've got people in the registers out front, and one of you as managers wants to just like go through this wonderful ticket in back of house, then you just go to sales, tickets, and the same list pulls up. So you can see again any status here. I'm going to put in that ticket number. I can see that it was avoided. I have all my timestamps. I'm going to click into it. Here you will see the customer, the sales rep that was assigned, the location, the source, the register that it was at. I very creatively called it Station 1. And here you can see that it was created by SR Admin. That is my generic work login. So you can see the cashier right here. They are the ones who created it, but the rep is whoever actually sold it. More often or not, they're the same, but there you are. And then the reason the ticket was voided shows up right here next to void. So you have full visibility here. There were no payments on this, so it doesn't show that there's any payments. There were no notes, but you do have an activity log. So you have timestamped that I created the ticket, then I added John to it, then I added Winifred to it, then I added this particular item to it, and then I voided it because of this reason. So down to the second, you can see exactly what people are doing on a ticket, which I know is a lot of information, and you don't need to use it often, but when you do need to use it, it is nice. So I'm going to go to Boston. I'm going to pull up Susan's tickets, and you see we've got her ticket and her return here. In an active ticket, if you wanted to, you could reprint from here. You can also re-email it from here, and you cannot void it because it is a completed ticket. But if it were a whole ticket, you could just void it from here as well. So you could do a little cleanup work from back of house. You see your items. You'll actually see the payments here. See that I did a custom payment type, then I voided it, and they decided to pay a different way. They decided to pay in cash. So every button you press is effectively noted, and you'll see the activity here. So I started this about an hour ago. This happened about 43 minutes ago. And if you hover over them, this is how you see all the timestamps in our system. Again, I know that's kind of a lot of transparency for most people, but as a manager, if something is kind of unusual or really worth celebrating, you can really see the like the whole progress, what happened. You can also see if people were like in heavy conversations with your customers, because from the time you started it to the time it was finished, if there's like a big time gap, you know that it was a chatty client, which is also kind of fun to see.
So can we go back to the tickets hold and things like that? So basically, anytime that a ticket is being held or put on, it either becomes a void or it becomes the actual sale.
Precisely.
Okay. So I guess from our standpoint, we would have to go in there daily to make sure that everything has been voided out for daily accountability.
Yes, that is a best practice, and doing it daily is like the best of the best practices. However, if something gets put on hold and it is forgotten about, it is doing nothing to your system. So,
correct. However, because we have an accountability for voids and things like that, what we would not want to have done is to have 45 voids on like April 30th, because the accountability really is within that day versus monthly or whatever the case may be.
Yep, that makes sense. And that would be like an internal policy that you would set up to make sure that everybody's staying on top of those holds and putting them in the right buckets, mostly voids if that person hasn't come back in a day or two. But yeah, that would exactly be the case.
Okay, which obviously then would be something that we wouldn't like right now actually put something on hold, or put a transaction on hold. It would actually just clear itself out, like if it never existed. And that does not happen here.
No, and here's something that's worth knowing. So again, we don't have post voids because we're not holding credit card information. So when you void a ticket, there has to be zero payment on it. So if there is a payment on that ticket, you have to refund that payment before we allow that ticket to be voided.
Right, which is similar to what our system is now.
Okay.
We can't do a post void at this point. Like we would have to, if someone hit cash by mistake and they wanted to put it on a credit card or whatever the case is, once they go too far, they have to literally total it out and then do the refund and things like that.
Yep. So, I mean, obviously for like cash and stuff, we do have the void buttons at the actual ticket screen, but actual credit card post voids are becoming quickly a thing of the past because of security problems. So that's like a dying art, as nice as that was, but not something that people can do really.
Okay. Yeah, and the big thing really was the daily accountability, and we just want to make sure that as a company we set that up so that people are going in daily to make sure that the voids are being associated with the day that it's happening, not batch them at the end of the month or end of the week.
Perfect, and that makes perfect sense. And stores that I know that tend to do that, they tend to have people just go through at the end of their shift and make sure that anything they put on hold is cleared up. So, they would go down by their station. So maybe I was always on station 1 today and I'd clear through my voids. So that's a nice way to get everybody involved in doing it. But again, you guys will figure that out and what works for you.
So once these are voided, when we do the paperwork at night, are all those voids going to show up on that paperwork?
So they don't. You would have to take a look. So the paperwork that you're going to see at night is going to be it's payment oriented, and because there's no payments on the void, everything you would look at void wise is going to be retroactive. So, but it won't show up on what we call your daily summary. But what you do is you'd go to tickets, you could see voided, and then you can take a look at everything that's voided by date. So you'd see, lists here, and you could search by station and by location. So it's here as a paper trail, but it's not going to show up in your daily summary. And we'll go over this in just a few minutes, but this is your daily summary, and your daily summary has all of your payment activity.
And just to be clear, if let's say we're in a sale, and we just, okay, that sale's not going to happen, whether the customer went away or we're doing a price check, like you were saying, we can that transaction can be correct, because currently we just swipe and it goes away. The item goes away and we close out that sale, and then there's really no need for a void. That's the same functionality here, correct?
Yeah, if you get rid of that item and it
And the
becomes
sales
a
is
blank
over.
ticket again, then
Right.
it will be the active ticket for the next transaction. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that is fine. Now, if you do that, it generates a ticket number, and then you close your drawer, open your drawer, do a bunch of stuff, and actually then click new ticket. So if you click new ticket after a ticket number has been generated, actually we'll put that blank ticket on hold because it thinks you're holding it for somebody.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because you've asked for a new ticket number. I think those are little quirks that you guys will get really comfortable with once you're using the system every day. But effectively, if you're using it as a price check, you just remove that item and use that active ticket. All right. All very, very good questions. Anything else that is transactional before we start talking about drawer stuff and end of day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we
Go ahead. Sorry, John.
are we able to print out the listing of voided tickets? Let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
If I have a cashier that wants to, I don't know, give their best friend $500 worth of merchandise, I'm looking at them going, oh, be scanning everything up and whatever the case is. And then they put the ticket on hold or void things out. I know that everything has that timestamp, which is awesome to be able to take a look at. But if nothing really prints out and that person then goes in and, voids out the ticket, whatever, unless I am diligent enough to go in every single day, after a bigger transaction or whatever, nothing prints out at all.
So nothing will print out for your voids from these screens. Let me see if I can put an actual just saved report together for you for our reporting training on Monday to see if that would give you the visibility you're looking for. Because everything here, we're not, again, daily summary is just your payments, and when we close the cash drawer out, it's just going to be cash drawer information. You're not going to daily see all of your voids unless you're actually looking for them. But let me see if I could generate something that would serve that purpose and be printable.
Okay.
And
Donna, it seems like it might have been what our suspend is, even though we don't use them, but that kind of seems like what it reminds me of.
Right. That's what it correct. But if we have to actually create that void piece of it, that's, I think, where our loss prevention is looking at the word void, thinking this is an LP, not a suspended transaction. And currently, any suspended transaction that we have would just literally go away.
Yeah, it just kind of goes off into the ether, and that's kind of how we treat them. We treat them with enough information that if you needed to do some digging, it's there. But our assumption is that you're not really looking at that information frequently. So let's see if I can pull together a printable that would give you that information. And knowing by sales rep, was part of that, correct? Like the who as well as the why.
Right, but I mean, and that, I mean, all we would need is something that basically gives the overview piece of it, because we can go in and take a look at a lot of the other timestamp and the information that you have.
Yep.
But like you say, with the word void, I know it's probably more of a back about like conversation internally, but I think with the word void, it conjures up LP, and then they're looking for different things, and it kind of muddies the water a little bit.
Okay. So I am curious, more for context, what is the difference in your current system between a suspended transaction and a void? Is it suspended just means it's like it doesn't have its own bucket, it just kind of evaporates?
So I could go deep into what we do, but currently, just like what Tony said, a void just becomes a non-transaction.
Okay.
So that's something that we no longer actually see. It becomes a void. It becomes an actual void even in the journal, like the electronic journal. Like it just becomes a white void. Like there's nothing associated with it. So when you're looking at the journal, the electronic journal, you might see transaction 1, 2, 3, and then you'll see transaction 5, because 4 was literally we just swipe out of the program and it goes away. So
Okay.
that was one of the things that we were dealing with the current system that we had right now too.
Okay. And when you say the electronic journal, is this the information that your like accounting team is pulling at corporate?
It's what like our loss prevention team would pull.
Okay. That's good to know. So one of the things that I am going to note, because all of this information, like we don't necessarily have built-in, printables for this, since frankly, it hasn't been asked of me before, at least. So I don't know, but the API points for this information are also there. So there could be a really easy way to like auto pull this information into the systems that it needs to go into, because we do have so much information built into our voids that it could actually just be extracted from our system.
Right. And what I'm seeing here today is a lot more information than what we can actually pull. Like we have to do a lot of digging from the current system, in the current system, to get that information, where it's here and it's easily accessible and readable and everything like that.
Yep. Okay, so I'll bring that up to our dev who's working with your devs, and then I'll see if I can generate a report that serves like your immediate purpose, and then getting it more automated would be like a nice down the road thing to do. Because the points are there, all the info's there, it just needs to be pulled the way you guys want it to be pulled. I will say, and I think you'll notice this, especially as we go into some of the cash drawer stuff, and we'll go into the daily summary, which we took a peek at, and it's all payment information. We are very, I wouldn't say we're not printer friendly, but our system was definitely built on the idea that you're going to try to be as paperless as humanly possible. So it is not uncommon that I hear like, oh, where can I print this? And we actually don't have a place to print this. So usually we solve that through the reporting module. So hopefully I can get that situated for you by Monday.
Okay. Tony, I stepped on your question.
So for discounts, currently right now, any coupons or discounts has to be authorized through a manager. But it seemed as if the discount can be given to the item by the person. Is that correct?
So yes and no. I'm going to say yes to both things. So you do have permissions that you can toggle on and off. So if we go into settings and roles and we look at a store manager here, and this is not the ones we actually set up in your account, these are fake ones, but you have the ability to view and redeem promotions and view and redeem coupons. So if you don't want, and you can adjust item prices at the point of sale, You can toggle those off for everybody except a manager. But what happens is then as a manager, you have to sign in, go to that ticket and add the information in. So it's not like an approval box comes up and you say, yes, I'm the manager, I approve this. It's you have to do it under your login if you're going to have the right to do it, but somebody else isn't. That makes sense. So we can turn that off for everybody at the floor.
But then we have to go in and do the sale ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, you can sign in, go to that sale, add the discount, sign out, and then that person has to sign in to go back and do it. It's a lot of legwork to have you be the one to do it. So that's kind of that's up to you. I typically suggest leaving it on for staff members, for people who come from systems that lock down things like promotions and coupons, and then see how you like manage it in store together. And then if you're seeing issues, then you can lock it down. It's typically how most people end up rolling it out.
Yeah, that wouldn't be for me to decide.
Yeah.
That would be John and above.
And Tony, are you speaking specifically of like an offer?
Mall coupon.
Right. So the mall coupons and things like that, we should be using a barcode that I think should still scan into the system, if I remember correctly, right, Danielle?
Absolutely. So if your mall sends out like a mall coupon and the barcode is like every mall coupon has the same barcode, it's their like just like a marketing barcode that triggers this whatever. You actually build out a coupon with that barcode number and it becomes scannable. So when they scan that coupon at the point of sale, that coupon automatically takes its intended discount off. So the whole thing is controlled.
Right. So I guess maybe, John, this is something that we have to discuss, because I've always been under the impression and have been given the direction that management's the only one that can enter even that discount into the register.
Yeah, we can have an offline conversation.
Yeah.
That actually did. Yeah, that actually did change.
Okay.
Awesome. If you guys want to work through offline after you've had your conversation, like a new kind of workflow for a very particular type of coupon and promotion, let me know and I could whip up a little like video module for it, as long as you let me know what the intended workflow is.
Thank you.
All right. Excellent.
One more. I'm sorry. I'm just going to speak up.
Don't be sorry, Tony.
No, it's totally fine. I'm just going to ask the questions. So let's say we email the receipt to the customer and they come back with that email receipt. Currently, we scan the barcode. Is it just, I'm guessing, I'm assuming, but I'm just asking for clarification, that the transaction is going to look like a regular receipt on their phone, and then we just pull out the transaction number from that receipt?
Yeah, it's formatted slightly differently just because you don't want it super like long and lean like a receipt. It's going to be a little bit more formatted to a digital device, but there's actually a barcode on it. So if your barcode scanners are good, you did beep right on their phone.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll pull it up. But at the bottom under the barcode will also be the receipt number. And on our system, it's always like 6 digits. So you just type in the 6-digit receipt number if it's not working with their phone.
Perfect.
All right. I'm going to pause. Tony, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
You sure? Okay. I'm honestly happy to answer questions. I go through this all the time. Questions are a break in what I, tend to repeat. So I'll take them. All right. So drawer management. And this is where, actually, Tony, you might be the one speaking up. A few questions about how you guys are handling your drawer currently. I believe you count your drawer in the morning and at night, which is great. So that's exactly how our system is totally set up. We account for the float in your system. So we're always trying to like get you to your float if there were returns or if money went missing or there's too much money in your till. But the one thing I want to mention before we go into true end of day procedure is cash paid in and out. So cash paid in and out is how we handle petty cash. This is how you open the drawer in our system. So for us, petty cash is if you needed to pull $10 out, go to the bank and get, a roll of quarters. You're going to use the cash paid in and out system to pop the drawer, say why you're pulling money out, and you're going to get a little nice paper trail, and then you're going to do it again and say why you're putting the money back in, so that everybody knows exactly why you've touched the drawer. If you needed to open the drawer for any reason, you found 3 nickels on the ground that you had heard drop in the previous sale and you needed to put them back in, you would use cash paid in and out to do that. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, and then you guys can kind of pipe in on some kind of behavior, how it's going to flow in your store, whatever you want to bring up. So I'm going to do a cash paid in and out here. Let me make sure I have some reasons. Okay, excellent. So a cash paid out means I'm pulling money out of my drawer. A cash paid out could also just be that I'm opening my drawer to put a receipt in. It doesn't really matter. If I'm doing something with the drawer that has nothing to do with touching the money in it, then you could just do a cash paid in out. The amount would be 0, and the reason, you'd have a reason code for whatever it is you were doing. Maybe I'm putting a postage stamp in there. I don't know. That's where I hold my postage stamps. Then I could say putting stamps in drawer. It's a really strange example, but given the built-in reasons I've got here. So putting stamps in drawer, then I would press complete. A little tiny receipt would show up. The drawer would pop, and you'd put the little receipt in there that said, Danielle popped the drawer at this time, 0 amount of money was touched. This is why she did it. More common reasons would be like cash paid out. You needed to do like bank change. I'm going to pull $10 out of the drawer. Let's pretend supply says bank change, and I'm going to put, oops. Sorry guys, clicked away. I do bank change and note need quarters. This is also how you'd pull money out if you guys are allowed to like tip the person who's cleaning your windows, or if you buy lunch for the team and you're tipping the delivery driver. Usually big organizations don't have those kind of policies in place because you're not using your cash drawer for those purposes. But if there are any stores that have those kind of nuances, this would be the feature you use. So I'm going to complete. This little receipt pops out, the drawer pops. I have a digital, record of it, as well as the paper record that I'm going to slip into the drawer. When I come back from getting my roll of quarters, I'm going to do a cash paid in. I'm going to change this to an in. I'm going to say I'm putting $10 back in. It's going to net out, but it's going to be 2 times that I've actually forced the drawer open for a particular reason, and I have to say why. And this is going to be grabbed the quarters. Press complete. Same thing's going to happen. You're going to get a little slip, so then the person closing at night can see like 2 slips. All right, these 2 went together. Money was taken out, money was put back in. And this is important because when you do look at your daily summary, and we'll pull that up here. So last time I pulled it out of the back of office by going to sales and daily summary, but I have a shortcut to it here. Again, the sales drop down over the dashboard reflects everything we're doing in the point of sale. It's just how you look at stuff retroactively. So I'm going to go to daily summary, and it's going to show me right here under cash paid in and out that I've got 2 because I used the feature twice. The drawer was popped twice outside of a sale, and it netted to 0 because I didn't actually remove funds or add funds. I just swapped out a $10 bill for a roll of quarters. We do not have like an instant open drawer button because the system was built trying to force people to say why they're touching the drawer no matter what, so that the drawer can never be popped outside of a transaction or an intentional drawer pop with a reason. Does that make sense? Okay. If that makes sense to everybody, then I'm going to go on to the daily summary, because this is your kind of like basic look at the day for the end of the night. Most people have end of day reports that they save in reporting, and we'll go over all of that on Monday. What end of day reports look like for most stores, what information you can pull from saved reports that are much more granular, because this is very much like a bird's eye snapshot of all of your payments for the day. So again, you can go to it from sales and daily summary, or from the point of sale. You open up your sidebar menu and you've got daily summary here. You can look at it by station. It will always default to the location you're standing in. So I have here my net location sales for the day. This is what's going to be reflected on your dashboard. Gift cards issued, shipping income, not something you guys will really be doing frequently. This would be really more for when you have like e-com attached to the system. Tax collected, deposits collected and deposits relieved. This is all for e-com and layaways, so not something you guys are utilizing right now. You've got your net payments here. And then you have your payments by type. Your payments by type list is going to be much longer. You're going to have an integrated credit card machine attached, which means it's going to show Visa versus MasterCard versus Amex. I was using kind of, dummy payment types today to show you how the system worked, but you'll have a much more granular list because your credit card machine will actually be able to see credit card type, and then we can save credit card type to the payment types. So I had 39 external payment types because the devs are also working in this account. 1 check, 3 payment transactions for a total of 43 transactions. And these are my net payments that match my net sales up here. And then again, my cash paid in and out is going to give me the information about how many times the cash drawer has been touched outside of a transaction. There is a note section here. This is something that I find very powerful with staff. You can utilize it however you choose. If you currently leave, if you're like closing manager or your closing key holder leaves notes for the manager for the next morning, this would be a great spot to put that. So most of the stores I have run have been in Chicago or Boston, notoriously snowy places. So at least twice, 3 times a year, we'd close up shop early because it was like unsafe for people to come in. We were in the middle of an ice storm or a blizzard. So this would be the kind of situation where if I, next year rolls around, my LY numbers for this day are completely strange and totally off. I could always retroactively look back at my notes and I'll see it's a blizzard of April 2021, which we've had blizzards in April in Chicago. So this would not, unfortunately, be an unusual occurrence. So I would put that here and it would say, Danielle last year said this was the blizzard of 2021. But you would put like maybe you close the store at 1 p.m., which makes sense for why your LY numbers are so different than what they typically would be on a nice Thursday in spring. This is also a great spot for your staff members to tell you if something unusual happened in the store. Maybe a customer made them feel really uncomfortable or something odd happened. They just wanted to make you aware of it. They would put the note here, press, enter on their keyboard, and it says the timestamp and who did it. So as long as they're logged in, it would say who left you the note. So they don't have to say like, this person made me feel uncomfortable. Love, Danielle. It would just show up with their user information here. You can export this to a PDF and print it on your back office computer printer, or this prints this to your receipt printer. So you have 2 different options, or you can not print, which is kind of our general school of thought, because as long as you were active in our system, you can forever retroactively pull this information. All right, so that is our daily summary, and that's kind of a nice thing to look at and make sure the notes are in for the day before you close the drawer. So the last thing we really have to touch here for what you guys are going to be using is your close drawer function. After we close the drawer, we'll open it for the next day just to show what it looks like. But one thing to understand, so in your current system, when you close your drawer, are you able to close your drawer multiple times a day and it not actually change your sales day? Or does closing your drawer actually close out your sales day in your current system?
It does not.
Okay. So are you ever in situations during holiday maybe where there's enough cash piling up that you end up closing your drawer out between shifts? Or you typically leave everything in there till end of day?
No, we could start a new till.
Okay, perfect. So for our close drawer function, you can close your drawer as many times as you want during the day. We actually don't have a module for closing out your sales day. Your sales day is going to close out when your computer hits midnight. So our sales day, by default ends up being a calendar day. So you have here, you know, closed drawer. I'm going to close it up. You would write like a deposit and you'd pull the cash out every time you would close the till. And then you would just, you know, reopen it up for that station if you're doing it multiple times in a day. So I have no idea how much money we actually took in cash wise. So when you go to close the drawer, this would pop the drawer and you would start going through the closing procedure. So you would have here, you know, maybe 4 100s, 350s. Again, I have no idea what we've got going on here. So we're just going to take a big guess. So you would count the quantity of bills, not the value of them. So if you have 2 5s, you have 2 5s, you don't have $10. We do have a unicorn $2 bill and a unicorn 50 cents. So watch out for those. And maybe we've got 12 of those there. Again, cents, maybe you have 45 quarters. Oops. So you are just counting how many of these you have in each drawer. And same with rolls. So if I went and got that roll of quarters, I have 1 roll, I don't have $10. And then if you have checks, which I know you guys do not accept personal checks, but again, you should at least know how the system works just in case one comes your way at some point. Then you would put the checks in there, another line populates, and then you would go to confirm count. Now this tells me that I am under by $962. Obviously, that's a really big deal. So I'm going to go recount my drawer. But if you were under even by a penny, it would show you your shortage in parentheses. And if you are over from what the system expects, then it would show it to you in a positive number. If you are off by even a cent, it's going to ask you to put your initials here and just approve it. And then that information gets collected. So I'm going to go ahead here and put in, maybe I missed a check and a confirm count again. Now it says I'm under by 30 cents. Maybe I am under by 30 cents and that 30 cents just disappeared and I'm going to approve it, say it counted like 12 times. It's done. That 30 cents is nowhere here. I'm going to put in my initials and I'm going to confirm count. After I confirm my count, it takes me to my deposit screen. So this tells me, all right, so this is my total amount of checks to deposit. You guys, it will always say 0 for the most part. It'll tell you your total amount in drawer. And this particular register is set to a $200 float. So it's going to do everything in its power to get me to 200 so that I can start tomorrow off the right way. So it's telling me based on your desired float of 200, you should remove $6.76 4 cents from the drawer deposit. So I'm going to say, all right, Heartland, I agree. $6.76 4 cents is coming out. Technically, that is not the exact amount of money that I took in cash. So when you run like a payments report and look at your daily summary, that's going to be 30 cents different because what it's doing is that 30 cents that disappeared, it's removing that from the deposit so that I can stay at a 200 float. And you know you've done it properly when it says 200 is remaining in your drawer. So when your float is what's remaining in your drawer, then you're good. If you have a slow day and you have a heavy return and it was a cash return and it ate into your float, then you would close with whatever you do have in the drawer. And then the next day, as you get more cash in, it's going to keep trying to get you back up to the 200 or 250, whatever your personal store's float is, because I know it varies a bit. So we're going to close the drawer. I'm going to say yes, close that drawer. So you've got your deposit information, you've closed the drawer, and then here we are at our dashboard. So the next morning, we're going to pretend time has gone by. What's nice is you close your drawer and you do have like a good customer who's like, you know, knocking on your door at the end of the day and like, I want that sale. You just reopen it, take that sale, and then reclose it. Nothing happens. All of your reporting is the same. It's all still good. But the next morning, you'll see we didn't have an open drawer button, and that's because you can't get to a new ticket without opening your drawer. So you would start counting. For the sake of your time, I'm just going to put 200 in there. And you'll see that it let me open it without my initials because it expected 200, and I gave it 200. And now I'm at a ticket, and I can start my day. Are there any questions?
Okay, you know,
So
it's gonna
if you open the register at like you said, you did a return, it ate into your float, and you opened today with 175. That would then require you to enter in your initials?
No, because it expects 175 because you closed with it the night before. So it knows your float isn't being honored, but there's no math mistakes. It closed at 175 the night before, even though it wants to be at 200. If you open at 175, you did nothing wrong. So it'll take you right to the screen. And then tonight it would try to, eat that $25 from a deposit to make your float even again.
Okay.
All right. One thing I do suggest is because these and the accounts, the live account that is being currently built right now, it's like nearly ready to be cloned. So you guys can play with an account that is like genuinely like identical to what your live account's going to look like. I suggest just pulling the test account up in your back computers and having your teams play with them, because you can't break a test account. And you can go through, fake cash drawers. You don't need an actual drawer to do this. I mean, I'm sitting here without a drawer. So you can go through like the digital motions of everything to make sure that, the flow works. Any other questions about end of day or any of the transactions we went over?
Yeah, I just had a comment. You were talking about the unicorn of the $2 and the 50 cent. I get a lot of dollar coins, and I would say that's more so than my 50 cent coins. It was just an observation. I'm not trying to make you change your whole system. It might be something like go forward if we could get something in there for that.
For the $1 coin. So because it's the same denomination as bills, people do just put the coins in their $1 bill section. Do you currently treat them separately?
No, I'm just add them in there. But if we're starting from the ground up, I was just suggesting maybe it might be nice to have. But I understand what you're saying.
Well, I've been vying to get rid of that 50 cent for a very long time, so I can just add that to the list of them changing the UI on that screen, because I think it's silly. And if you have a $2 bill, everybody is smart enough to just put two $1 section.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but
And then the second thing is, and I know maybe I'm going before the cart, but the amount to be picked up for the deposit, it was really small and not a bolded kind of denomination. I know that when you read that screen, that's what it says. I'm just thinking for Johnny Keyholder that's, working 20 hours a week, it might be nice to have something a little bit more emboldened of what they're actually taking out for the deposit, and just that smaller font, nondescript amount.
Yep. So I will say again, because it's like
Almost done.
So what we're working on in your account is your data. That's built into every single one of our customers' accounts. So if we change that, it changes like thousands of stores. But I totally hear that. And the way that I tend to train it when I'm training like staff members who are like, 19-year-old and had never been in retail before, the key is to look at the bolded float amount. They know they've done their job the right way if it says 200. Obviously, if there's like a heavy return day, and then it's a little bit different. But if their remaining balance is like the secret sauce number, then they know they've pulled the right amount.
Right.
And they're also forced to type in what the deposit is going to be. So like ours said $676 was what we suggested. They have to take that number and hand type it in to the deposit box to get that float to 200.
Right.
It doesn't hurt to ask if we can like bold something. But I'll tell you right now, the format probably won't change, but we can always ask to bold. So that's a good call out. I'll also have to use Johnny Keyholder in one of my trainings.
There you go.
All right. Any other questions?
And one more thing. Because we have different stores, traditionally, most locations will have a float of 200. But is that something that we are able to change like initially, or is that something that is entered in from the corporate standpoint, or how is that changed if we want to make that change?
Yep. So it depends on how you're going to handle your permission. So that might be something that Damien can only do. It might be something that is open to the district managers. That will be internally up to you guys. But how you change it, this will be kind of, pulling some of those synapses back from our settings training. So if I go into my Boston location and I go into where we created those cash drawers together, you actually click into the cash drawer and change the float up here. So it can be changed in 4 clicks if it changes. And a lot of people will actually up their float like during holiday, depending on how much like little stuff they sell. So it is something that you can do kind of flexibly.
Thank you.
You bet. And you'll also see here that you've got the cash drawer activity log. So you can go into every single drawer and actually take a look at the activity. Danielle approved this. It was under by 30 cents. This was the deposit. So you can see all this information here as well. The drawer holds its own data. All right. Perfect. Well, if there are any other questions, please send them my way. I think tomorrow is the first day you don't get to see me in almost a week. But Monday we will reconvene and we will talk about reporting. If possible, and if it hasn't, and it could have happened already and I just didn't see it on Basecamp, but if Damien, John, and Michelle, if you can put in some of your current report examples, then I will try to use those to actually teach you guys reporting in our system so that we're using report types that you're already familiar with. That tends to make things click a little bit better because our reporting module is very different than most reporting modules. It's insanely flexible, but it does require having that like aha moment to feel comfortable creating your own reports.